everyone, it's Hannah from Is It Bad? Hopefully you checked out our new Is It Bad from last week, all about whether you need a blender and a food processor, or if you can just have one, what is the difference anyways. The verdict, if you hadn't seen it, is that if you want to do food prep like chopping vegetables or shredding cheese and making doughs like pizza dough or pie dough, you probably want to get a food processor. If you want to stick with more liquidy things like soups and smoothies and margaritas, then you definitely want to get a blender. If you want to do everything, then you probably might want to get both. And a stick blender is a good bridge tool because you can stick those right in the pot and puree soup. And they can also do smoothies and stuff like that. And they're a little less expensive and smaller to store if your appliances are taking up way too much room. But you guys had some awesome questions, and I want to talk about a few of them. A couple of you were wondering, we showed off our high-end winner, the Vitamix 5200, and we also showed our inexpensive winner, the Black & Decker Force Fusion. And a couple of you asked, what about the Breville Hemisphere, which has been our mid-range blender? It's $200, winner for a long time now, and they actually just discontinued it last year, so that's why we weren't talking about it. But they just released its replacement. It's called the Fresh and Furious, like Fast and Furious, like the movie, the Fresh and Furious. Hopefully there won't be Fresh and Furious 2, 3, 4, 5 like there are the movies. But I have it right here. So I thought I'd show you guys it. We're getting ready to test it. We're going to run the full gamut of tests on it. We're going to make all different kind of smoothies with really fibrous things like kale and frozen pineapple, really hard things to blend. We'll also make almond butter and mayonnaise and pesto and hummus and really push this thing to the limit and see how it compares to the Hemisphere and how it compares to our inexpensive winner and to the Vitamix, just to understand like where it comes, where its performance is in relation to all these other blenders. This is the old Hemisphere. This one's a little beat up, but it's been in use in the kitchen for years now. So check that out. And then here's the new Fresh and Furious. Check that out. Not too different. If you notice, they added a green smoothie button. Everyone's all about them green smoothies these days. And they reorganized the buttons a little bit. This thing also has a little more power, so that'll be interesting to see. The blade is different. The blade shape's different, so that'll be interesting to see whether that has an effect on how finely it can grind up things. Because it was able to make really smooth smoothies, but you could see flecks of kale still in them, unlike in a Vitamix where it's like perfectly vibrant green, totally homogeneous. So it'll be interesting to see how this one compares. I also have, as you can see, probably right behind me, the Instant Pot. If you haven't heard of an Instant Pot recently, you probably are living under a rock or are very lucky. Because if you've met someone that is into their Instant Pot, they'll probably talk your ear off about it. But they are really cool. An Instant Pot is a multi-cooker. They're famous for making this multi-cooker. And it's a pressure cooker and a slow cooker combined. You can also saute in it, and they say you can do about 50 million other things. We tested multi-cookers. It actually didn't win our testing, but we do appreciate how cool the Instant Pot is because it really brings pressure cooking back to the masses. But this is not a multi-cooker. Instant Pot just launched a blender, which is a departure from what they've been doing, and it's really kind of interesting. So we are also going to check this out. It just came out last week or the week before that, so it's really new. We just got it in last week, and as you can see, everybody's all about the alternative milks these days. This box says almond, nut, oat, rice, and soy milks and butters. Cook hot soups, puree vegetables and baby food, frozen treats and beverages. It has a glass pitcher, which is really interesting for people that want to avoid plastic. That also usually means the pitcher's going to be a little more heavy. So I wanted to unbox it with you guys here and show it to you. I took it out of this big box already because I don't think anyone needs to see me struggling with these stupid styrofoam things that come with them, which are so hard. Like, I don't know how those are packed. It must be done by a robot because the precision, if you try to put them back in, it's like a mathematical equation. You know, you need to like jam things in. Usually I just throw the styrofoam away. Okay, so here it is. Manual. Should be some fun reading later. Styrofoam. Cleaner brush thingy. It's with a giant toothbrush. Strainer bag, so like if you're making almond milk, you can strain it after. Reusable and machine washable. That's pretty cool. When we've made almond milk before in like the Vitamix, you don't have to strain it, but you might want to strain it if you want something smoother. So a nut milk bag could be a good addition to your arsenal if you're going to be making nut milk. Tamp things down. That's really good for really thick blends. When really thick blends, sometimes they go up over the blade and the blade just starts spinning under. I think it's called cavitation. I know I'm pronouncing that wrong. Don't bother telling me. But anyways, the thick stuff goes up over and it just spins underneath. It's just spinning through the air and it's not blending anything. So these tamper is really good for pushing the food back down on the blender. All right, let's check out what else we got here. Lid, always important. Have you ever started your blender without the lid on? Base, interesting. Let's check this out a little more closely. Smoothies, purees, crushed ice cream. Ooh. So a lot of high-end blenders promise that they can do ice cream. In our testing, what they call for is for you to freeze a bunch of stuff, like freeze milk in ice cube containers and then blend it all up. So it's not like these are becoming an ice cream machine and churning or doing anything special. But I don't know about this guy. He might. Who knows? We'll find out. Soy milk. It's kind of cool to make your own soy milk. Never heard of that. Rice milk, nut/oat milk, and soup. And it has a temperature readout, which is really interesting. The box shows it going up to 200 degrees, which is pretty cool. Usually when a blender says they can cook something, usually all it does is spin it really fast. So the friction of it spinning around and around and around and the heat of the motor heats up the contents. And what we found, even with fancy Vitamixes, is they get up to like 140, let's say, degrees or so, where it's like, yeah, it's warm-ish, but it's not like piping hot. It's not, your first bite of soup might be pretty warm, but then the second and the third, it's getting kind of lukewarm. So they didn't really deliver on that promise. But this guy has a temperature readout. The temperature, once it's plugged in, will read out right here. And the box has it reading out 200 degrees, which would be almost boiling. So this seems like it's got a little something different going on here. So I'm excited to see how that is. Final piece. Whoa, this is kind of heavy. Like I said, that's the downside of a glass pitcher. But then it's glass. Some people want to avoid plastic, especially, this is interesting. I wonder if it's because it gets so much hotter. If that's why they want a glass pitcher. But check this out. Goes on here like that. This is an interesting lid. It's like it's got a serious locking mechanism on here. I wonder if that also has to do with it getting its contents hotter than most blenders, because if you don't want the steam to make the lid explode off, which can happen. So maybe this thing is just a little more prepared for higher heat. Locks on right like that. Interesting. All right. Well, I'm going to spend the rest of my day making smoothies in this guy, in the Fresh and Furious, in the Vitamix 5200, and in the Black & Decker, and check out how they all compare. So stay tuned. We'll have these updates online and our full reviews available. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to check out next week's Is It Bad?